All right, everybody, welcome to the Broncos Zone Pod. First week coming at ya. Broncos Zone Pod brought to you by Elevated Pulse Sports. I love what Elevated Pulse Sports doing. You're building a community and a podcast for the fans by the fans. So you can see five of us here on the screen. We are all fans. We are creating a brand new weekly podcast where we're highlighting the lows. Hopefully, there are not that many lows, and the highs of the week. For the Broncos. And we will be looking at what happened each week, which we're really, really excited about. And we're going to kick off with this episode being a special one, being our first episode. There's five of us. We won't always have five here, but we'll introduce ourselves, and then we'll get into what the format of each week will really look like. So I'm going to pass it over to the main man, Braden, who will kick us off.
Hi, I am Braden. I grew up in Texas, but my parents were Denver natives and just grew up as a Bronco fan, played quarterback in high school, and just always stuck with the Broncos through the Cutler years and years and years as well. Let's go. Yeah, I'm good. Vince?
Hey, everybody. My name is Vince. I've been a Broncos fan as early as I can remember. I'm a Denver native, and one of my first memories is my dad coming home dejected from the Broncos losing to the Jaguars in the 96 playoffs. And ever since then, I've loved the Broncos and kind of understood the emotional ties that we hold to the Broncos here in Denver. And so that's the kind of ties and binds that I bring into this podcast as a Denver Broncos fan. Send it over to Jim.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Cobb. I call it Coach. I have pretty much grown up here in Colorado, been a Denver Bronco fan. As much as I'm going to hate to say it, I'm going to date myself back when Craig Morton was quarterback for the old Orange Crush before they went to Super Bowl 12. So I've lived through the great times and the not so great times. And so as we go on, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there and getting to hear, as Zach talked about, we'll be talking about our fan view of the Broncos and hopefully bring some good insight to you guys each week.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I am Zach. You heard from me before. Denver native, just like Vince. Born and bred Broncos fan since '93. First Super Bowl at that parade. I don't remember much, but being on my dad's shoulders, watching John Elway lift that good old Lombardi, and hope we're going to be doing a lot more of that in the upcoming years. I worked for the Broncos when I was in college, which was a blast. I got to ride through the Peyton Manning years. Unfortunately, I left right before they won the Super Bowl, so that was kind of a bummer. But absolutely love this team, love riding the roller coaster, the ups and the downs, and really excited to be talking about Broncos with all of you week by week. So I'll pass it over to Eric now.
Appreciate it, Zach. So I am Eric. I will round us out. I grew up in Iowa, and I've been in Colorado since 2001. Grew up a Broncos fan from day one. I remember watching, mid 80s, back when they, showed one game a week on Sunday. We'd usually get the Denver feed, so we'd watch Denver play, and I'd always see I-25 in the background and knew that, eventually Denver was a place that I'd love to call home. Rode with through the early days of Elway, all the way through to where we are today. So experienced a tons of ups, a tons of downs, and everything in between. But super excited to get everything kicked off, especially with the four of you guys. But really, to all the listeners and everybody out there watching, couldn't be more excited to hear feedback, interact with all the things that come along with the podcast. I know I speak for the other four guys here on the screen that we're all super excited and chomping at the bit to get going. But I'm just going to start real quick. I'll kind of give everybody a lay of the land on, a sneak peek, I guess, of what our format's going to look like each week. So we're going to typically start by walking through some Broncos trivia. We're going to see who's the ultimate fan on the podcast, and maybe do have a little bit of bragging rights as we kind of go from week to week. Obviously, we're going to cover news, the major news of the week. What we might do some predictions on what we think might come, what we think might happen. Free agency draft is a perfect time for those what if type of scenarios. And then we're going to talk about those things that we didn't see coming. If there are things that kind of caught everybody off guard, we're going to make sure we talk about those. We're going to do deep dives into different players, staff members, some of the stories of that, just all around the team. Where it's Broncos all day, every day, when we're talking on our podcast. So, and then what we'll do is at the end of each podcast, we're going to wrap up with kind of predictions and kind of lead into the following week. So I'm actually going to get us kicked off with a little bit of trivia. So in Broncos history, only 2 quarterbacks have ever thrown for 100 touchdowns. That's easy, Elway and Manning. But after them, the list gets a little crowded. I want to see if we can go through and name the top 7 quarterbacks who make up the top 5. There's 2 guys that are there's 2 ties in there for the passing TD leaders in Denver history. Give a little bit of extra credit if you can tell me how many touchdowns each of those players has thrown for. So I don't know. That's kind of an open-ended question. As I said, you got 2 easy ones off the top, but maybe dig in from there.
I'm going to throw out probably my least favorite quarterback in Broncos history in Jake Plummer.
Jake is definitely on the list. Yes.
I think I might have saw this list. Someone. So I don't know. I think Brian Greasy's on this list, right?
Brian Greasy is on the list. So
2 for 2.
Plummer and Greasy are tied.
I think it's 74 something
Close.
Nice, Braden.
Okay. Well, Bo Nix is on this list, which is crazy, but he's on this list already.
Bo is on the list. Yes.
All right, we got 2 more to go.
2 more to go.
Please don't tell me Kyle Orton's on this list.
Kyle Orton is not on the list.
Thank goodness.
Craig Morton, right?
I was going to say, I have to throw Craig Morton out there.
Yeah. Craig Morton is on the list. Yes, he's number 3.
I would think Cutler would have to be on there. He started enough years, I would say.
That rounds out the list. So it goes in order. I won't give the number in case anybody wants to guess, but it goes Elway, Manning, Morton, Plummer, Greasy. Plummer and Greasy are tied, and then Cutler and Nix are tied.
All right. Give me
Crazy.
one more guess on the Greasy. Is it 71?
It's 71. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, Braden.
You got it.
Pretty darn good.
Morton. So Elway leads the way with 300. Peyton Manning with 140. Craig Morton with 74. Plummer and Greasy with 71. And then Cutler and Nix with 54, which, I mean, talking about Bo Nix, we're coming into year 3. I don't know that I think, Broncos fans certainly felt when we drafted him, we saw the potential. I don't know if anybody thought 54 touchdowns over 2 years, though. That has exceeded my expectations for sure.
Yeah, I think everybody just kind of expected a kind of a game manager at the start, but he came in rookie, halfway of his rookie season. It seems like he really took charge and delivering passes downfield and getting touchdowns, and that just transferred over to fourth quarters of the following season.
For sure.
Absolutely wild. Well,
the one that, the one I have to laugh on that a little bit too is Craig Morton, being that Red Miller, coming with the run and everything else. You had the Eminem connection, which I think is something that, is Nix and Sutton, are they going to be those guys, or, alluding to what just happened with free agency is Waddle, his new guy. It's really going to put him over the top, put him in that Peyton Manning era, if you will, or that rare air there with Peyton Manning. That'll be an interesting story to see as we develop. But yeah, Craig Morton in basically in 5 years being the heir to the Elway era, if you will. Craig Morton, that was a big surprise for sure.
That is. Well, speaking of a potential connection between Bo and Waddle, we'll probably have some fun with some nicknames throughout the season. Hopefully we've got some good things coming with those two. Let's get right into it. Free agency frenzy, specifically putting frenzy in quotes here. Sean Payton talked a little bit about it today at the owners meeting about trying to kind of avoid some of that hype there around what's going on with any free agency cycle period. You don't want to win the actual day or the first few days. And that's definitely the Broncos mentality here. We're sitting in the shadows. We're kind of waiting things out. But there's definitely a strategy there. So curious to get everyone's kind of take. Slow to the start, big splash with Waddle. Vince, start us off here. Like, what was kind of the biggest thing that surprised you? What are you happy about, sad about?
Yeah, I would say the biggest surprise for me is that not so much that we went out and made a move at wide receiver, but I was absolutely expecting it to be someone more in the vein of a Mike Evans, a larger wide receiver, which seems like what Sean Payton typically gravitates toward. You look at Cortland Sutton and even the receivers that he had out in New Orleans, but he also drafted people like Vele, and I'm forgetting the guy's name out of Illinois who was a rookie this past year that got injured, but he seems
Pat Bryant.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
He seems to like the bigger wide receivers, and Waddle is not that, but he is someone who can win consistently, and boy, is that what we needed. I love little Jordan Humphrey. I love a lot of the guys on our roster, but the fact that little Jordan Humphrey got cut by a team, we picked him up immediately and then plugged him in, and he produced for us. Well, that's great. I think it says we need other people who can win, and Waddle most certainly is that. So I'm excited about that. I was surprised that it was Waddle. I actually think we got a relatively decent price on him, and so I'm happy about that. And specifically going back to free agent signings, I want to give a tip of the cap to Braden, because when we were talking about things in our initial meeting, none of us were surprised that Troutman was brought back, but as Braden said, the length of contract that Troutman got was really surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, just going off of that Troutman, I wouldn't mind 3 years. His skill set is really good for what he is, just a good, solid blocking tight end. So I don't necessarily mind the 3 years. I mind the 17 million. If that could be around closer to 9 or 10, I think that would have been really good value. But, I do like him on the team. I do think he brings a certain grit. But yeah, that price tag is a little steep. I think a lot of Bronco fans feel that way.
Yeah, it's paying a lot for a blocking tight end, that's for sure. He's not going to be a guy that stretches the field. He's not going to be a guy that goes in and catches 100 balls a year or anything like that. But he's going to do dirty work. And, I think one of the things, when we look at the running game and kind of what happened when JK got hurt after, I think it was week 10 roughly, it was a drop off, and it's not just all on the running backs. Some of that is up front, the guys up front, and no disrespect to Ingram, but he was brought in to catch passes. He wasn't brought in to be a huge blocking guy that's going to get your running backs yards, and so I don't mind the signing. I agree with you. I think the dollar amount's just a little bit high, but I'm not an NFL GM, so I don't know what goes on in those conversations and what it took, to land that contract. But one of the things that kind of jumped out to me, especially with Waddle, Vince, you mentioned the price tag. So we're going in now to year 3 of 5, essentially, that we have no first round pick. To be at the place where the Broncos were, you know, in the AFC Championship game, having won the AFC West without having a first round pick in 2 out of the last 4 years, now going to be 3 out of the last 5 years. I think that says a lot to the guys who they already had on the team. And so when you hear Sean Payton talk about the primary focus being on their guys, it's because they like what they have in house, and I think that's huge. You know, that's what you build from is that core, and then you try to pick pieces off in free agency because you know you can look throughout the league. You can't win consistently and have a steady roster that you're just picking pieces from free agency every year. That's not how you win in the NFL. You got to build from the draft, and I know everybody falls in love with those early first round picks, but sometimes it's the guys that are picked in the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth rounds that really build out the team. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I think that culture matters. I think, whether as fans like it or not, that's what the media, aka Mike Kliss, maybe, aka the Broncos PR, are kind of pushing down. And until they have a losing season with Bo under quarterback, I don't think we can really argue. Now, if things aren't gelling this year, then we can look back and point some fingers. But like, they got gel guys, so that's going to be really interesting. We got Coach Cobb here. We got a coach. We got the inside angle here. How important is culture to the teams you've built? And like, what do you see with the Broncos core that we've got? Waddle's obviously the right dude. He's the right fit. Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that in all honesty, to sit there and look at what you build inside, I mean, you look at players that we've gotten in the first round in the past. We talked about Jay Cutler. We talked about Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall was in everything. And those guys, even though, it was the coaches that brought him in, they just couldn't put them together. And that started to blow up that culture. And that's when you really saw some things start to shift within the Broncos. And to, from the comments made earlier, I think that it is building that culture and keeping those guys in to sit there and see how fast they sign these free agents and really built that room. And Alex Singleton had put it out there a while back and said, just run it back. And I think that's what these guys are doing. They had a good core of guys that were there last year that aren't they could have gone out when you look at some of the free agents still out there. Why did you pick Jalen Waddle rather than Tyreek Hill? Well, I think that kind of explains itself. Tyreek is very much got to be the guy that's the front runner. It's the guy that's out there. Look at me. And Jalen Waddle, did some excellent things in his past 5 years. He's been out there, but he hasn't been that guy that has to have all eyes on me. And between that and having the, even though it's funny, the comments that were made by Waddle about Pat Surtain here a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? My roommate is now a member of the Denver Broncos. So I think there's just some good things that you do. I think there's some quality stuff that they're building. And, again, to look at Waddle's situation, what were you going to get at number 30? Were you going to get a guy of Waddle's caliber that's in a win now, which is where they really, I think, are putting Bo Nix because contract time is coming up. And that's something that they're going to have to look at. Is this the guy that's really going to take us to, he's done great, certainly, but is this going to be his next step to where he's going to take us to another Super Bowl type? And I think that giving him Waddle certainly puts a lot of trust in him. And let's see what we go and take off and do with it now.
Yeah, and especially bouncing off of that, the Bo Nix contract. I mean, we have Waddle on a fairly good contract. We're not paying him for another 2 years at the very least. So and then contract talks can go on from there. But I mean, Bo Nix still on his rookie contract. We still have money in the bank as far as cap space goes. So there can be a big move. Free agent frenzy. Some talk is with John Franklin Myers leaving to Tennessee. Does Cam Jordan reunite with Sean Payton. That's a name that I've been hearing popping up around the internet. And I mean, that would be a great fit in this Denver defense.
Cam Jordan. I know the fans are going to want Von Miller, but like this team is not the same. So I'd be more in the Cam Jordan bucket.
Yeah, I mean, Von Miller would be great. I would love to have him back. I'm sure everybody would too. But just kind of getting more of, I know Cam Jordan is on that kind of the defensive end kind of edge rusher, but he's big enough. He can absolutely fit into that defensive tackle position. Kind of like how Zach Allen kind of moves around the line as well, you know, kind of being in that same positional category right there.
Well, if I can bring up one more thing on the culture, sit there and look at guys that we picked. Javonte Williams, for me coming in, I thought we had a kid that was just going to tear it up. Seeing what he did at University of North Carolina, you know, doing some of the things over here, the stuff that he came in, and you know, up until his injury, obviously. But I think it was a culture thing to allow him to go, and then he takes off to Dallas. And has done some great things there. So you kind of sit there and scratch your head a little bit and go, why not here? Why couldn't he have gone back to that and done that? And I think there was something that was said within that culture that just said, this is not the guy for us. We need to work on that a little bit, find another piece to it. So I think that's just, again, like you talked about, Zach, I think there is a ton when it talks to building the right culture in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we talked about some players we have signed. Let's go around the horn. Who, for each of you, who did you want the Broncos to pick up? Who's the one that got away?
Oh man, you know, JK, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I wanted Kenneth Walker. I mean, you know, those last 3 games in the playoffs, you know, really sold me on him. You know, guilty as charged. I draft him in fantasy just about every year because that's just where I end up, 7th pick, you know. But and I know he does have a bit of an injury history, but I just love the way he runs. That being said, I do love J.K. Dobbins. I do think he was a top 5 rusher before the injury last year, and I'm so glad we have him back in the building. I like him more than Etienne. That was a potential option. So, but Kenneth Walker was somebody I was hopeful for.
Just since you mentioned Etienne, it's not necessarily that I wanted him, but I had, and this isn't anything profound, but I had a feeling that seemed like, this is a cheap comparison, but somewhat Alvin Kamara-ish, in that he can both catch the ball and he's not a sledgehammer type guy, but he's also will lower the shoulder. And so I thought maybe he profiled as a Sean Payton guy. And I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but Sean Payton, he doesn't seem to have very many new ideas. He's found something that works for him and he sticks with it. And that really seemed like the kind of guy he was going to go after in my book. And he did it. And I think it saved us a lot of money. And I'm actually thankful that this time around that he didn't go that route.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because we're going to all look back to the Super Bowl, which we should have been in the Super Bowl. The AFC Championship game in the snow, we didn't have the big running back. And like we keep basically going for the same build. Has it worked recently? So like I wanted Tyler Algier from the Falcons. That dude just can go beat people up. And he was kind of the Batman Robin to like what Detroit's had in the past couple of years. We had Algier and we had RJ. That would have been pretty enticing to me. Money-wise, like relatively, I think he signed a deal pretty similar to JK. JK, glue guy. We heard about it from Sean Payton today. That was the number one priority. Not going to deny that. The dude was legit if he's healthy, but is he going to remain healthy? That's the biggest concern.
Yeah, for me, the guy that got away was the guy that we had in house, and that was John Franklin Myers. I didn't want to see him go out to leave. You know, I thought he brought so much. You know, I know his sack numbers, he only had 7.5 sacks, which for an interior defensive lineman, that's pretty damn good. But I feel like it was just more of what he brought to the team. He brought like that spicy attitude of you're not going to run the ball on us. And when you know, if I can get to the quarterback, I'm going to get to the quarterback. You know, I know that you got to score points to win games in the NFL, but you also have to. I'm a firm believer in you build your team from the line out, and that's offensive and defensive. And you can't win in the NFL without solid defensive line. Now, I do think, you know, we do still have a lot of really good pieces on the defensive line, but for me, he was the one that I kept scratching my head during the season last year when, you know, they talked about some of the guys that were already signing, and I kept waiting for his name to come and his name to come, and it never came. And so I was a little disappointed to see him go. But I do have another one real quick. This is not necessarily somebody that's gotten away because he hasn't signed yet, but I've seen his name come up a couple of times, and I just think it would be. I feel like the hole we have is still, and you know, I saw Sean Payton today talking about moving Jonah Ellis inside, but it's inside linebacker. I still feel like that's a hole, and Bobby Wagner is a name that I just can't ignore. The guy, I know he's ancient, I know he's old, but man, the guy still had 160 tackles last year. You know, he's still doing it. So, you know, and you can't find somebody who's going to be, you know, bring better character, bring that experience, and, you know, maybe a little bit of that spicy attitude that John Franklin Myers left with. So
I like that a lot. Bobby Wagner would be amazing.
100%. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't know why I have a fascination with Falcons players. Falcons have been trash recently. If we didn't get Algier, I really wanted Caden Ellis. Like, you pair the brothers in the backfield there, like, oof, that would have been stellar. He also went for a pretty reasonable deal, but we didn't jump on him quick enough. So that'll be interesting. Who I don't think gets enough credit, though, Justin Strnad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, like, Alex Singleton, dude, you know, literally put his health at risk. The dude's ultimate player. I think he's a great fit for the team. Justin Strnad, I was looking at his stats, like, in terms of value that we got for his deal, a 3-year deal, basically 2 years guaranteed, his stats in terms of qualifying linebackers for coverage ranked 10th out of 88 linebackers, and in pass rush 16th. Like, not bad. So, like, hopefully he's a player that kind of steps up a little bit, fills some of that gap. He played great in replacement of Dre Greenlaw for a lot of the season. And he doesn't get hurt, which is the best ability.
I don't think they let Dre Greenlaw go this offseason if they don't believe in Strnad in the way that you were just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. And you save some money so you can get Waddle, and then you get someone else. But yeah, they got to believe in the guys in the building. I don't know what the draft looks like. The preview for future episodes, we'll be going deep into the draft, so I'll look more into linebacker depth. But you know, it's going to be a third rounder at that point. Or no, we lost our fourth rounder.
Fourth rounder
from linebacking position. So it'll be interesting.
Coach Cobb, what do you got?
You know, the one I still wouldn't mind taking a flyer on just to add a little more pressure would be Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa still has a little bit in the tank, and I think that he would be somebody that would be great to see on the other side of the defensive line. Get a little bit of fire action. I know obviously Von Miller certainly be the popular vote, bringing it back in. In fact, I even saw something today about Justin Simmons still looking for that opportunity. And unfortunately, I think that ship has sailed. Justin, great guy, certainly a fantastic player when he was here. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little extra. We've got some really strong pass rushers, and maybe that's something that one of those guys could be a little bit of trade bait. Bring Joey in, get him rushing, and maybe bring one of those young guys, as a trade piece down the road as well for something that might be able to help us. I really think, in all honesty, our offensive line is not what I would consider our strongest piece right now. And I think that we definitely need to be building on that. But certainly a Joey Bosa, very much on just just on some of the things that you could that
Yeah, and just going with the offensive line, I just want to put out some good offensive line recognition to Alex. Is it Palczewski?
Palczewski.
The Palczewski dude came in when Ben Powers went down, and situationally the guy was amazing. I think I have it here. 2 years, 9.5 million. I graded an A+. I think it's worth every penny to have a guy like him who can go left guard, right guard, center. He can do anything. He is a versatile offensive lineman. I love him. I'm so glad we signed him.
Yeah, it's funny. On my notes, I put one word underneath his name, and it's versatile. You nailed it. I mean, a guy that can play any position on the line, that's such a huge. I mean, you talk about job security. For somebody like that, who you can plug and play in any position, anytime an injury comes up, because this is the NFL. Injuries happen. They're going to happen every single year. And if you can play left guard, right guard, center, or either tackle position, that you deserve probably every dollar of that. What is it, 2 years, 9.5 million. So yeah, I spot on with that.
All right, we got free agency never is going to be over. But we've got a little bit of lull until the drafts. Does anyone think we make a trade, honestly, between now and the beginning of the season? I've got one guy I want, but eager to hear what you guys have to say.
I don't know about trades. I mentioned Cam Jordan earlier. That's obviously a free agent pickup. But I'm interested on who you have in mind.
So we missed on the tight end. Sorry, Evan Ingram, it didn't work out. I don't think it's entirely your fault. I think the scheme wasn't aligned to your best fit. That's okay. Troutman, I've got no real problem with. We signed Lucas Cole again. Fine. It's like a couple $1 million. We got a lot of guys that basically do the same thing. So I want to get coach's opinion on this, but if I'm a defense, I know what tight ends are going to be doing on the Broncos. So there's one guy trade-wise that I think could become available, Cole Kmet from the Bears. You already got Cole Sneveland. Dude's a stud. That dude's not going anywhere. They've got some good weapons. Cole Kmet is really intriguing to me. I don't think we'd have to give up too much, but we need a tight end. And when it's that, the draft, we'll talk again more about that in the future. There's always rumors about the dude from Vanderbilt, Eli Stowers, but I think we need someone proven.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Because we're missing on the tight end, big time. These guys, if you could just throw them in a bowl and mash them all together, then great. That's where. But I think we limit ourselves. You look at it again, going backwards, and looking at Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp coming out of the draft, he was a wide receiver at best. Maybe he's going to make the team. And that guy had to figure it out. And he couldn't block to save his life. That was something that came on, and Shanahan finally, and funny to think about the guy that drafted him being Dan Reeves, who was run, and then he ends up picking up Shannon Sharp, who, that was the next great weapon that we created. As far as Cole Kmet, yeah, I think Cole Kmet, I think that he is not where Chicago certainly wants to be. And I think that would definitely be an interesting trade if we could get in there. It would certainly give us that extra weapon that could be, both in the run game and pass game, which we're sorely needing at that position for sure. So I do like that choice.
We have not had a scary tight end since Julius Thomas. I mean, like that's a huge problem.
Anytime the Broncos have been good, we've had a tight end. I mean, you could even go a little, deep pull here, Jacob Tammy and Owen Daniels. I mean, they were older, maybe not your all-star tight ends, but they were productive in what they did. So, I mean, whenever the Broncos are good, there's either a dominant or at the very least a productive tight end.
Zach, I was so convinced you were about to say Taysom Hill with the way you put that up. And you know what? I was even going to be that mad at it because it's like at least we would get something inventive. But I was convinced you were about to say Taysom Hill. And we know Sean loves his former players, and so I really thought that's the direction you were going.
I love that. I've got nothing against Taysom Hill. I just am done with the Saints players. I think we've got the good ones. Nothing against Lil Jordan Humphrey. I don't think he's going to make the team this year, but it'll probably be the same situation. We'll drop him, and if we have injuries, we'll pick him back up. Alvin Kamara, that's still being thrown out there. I think Saints brass came out and said, we're keeping him. Taysom Hill would be fun, but he would be the Tebow. I don't know if we need another Tebow.
We always need another.
Yeah, no, let's not even go down that road. Let's not even go down the Tebow road. That is for sure.
Oh my. All right, this week, owners meetings, which exciting. The drama continues. I love seeing the headshots of all the GMs, that's changing. The coaches are changing. Good to see the Floor brothers together in the front row, which is kind of wild to see. I'm sure you guys have all kind of started to listen to some of the chatter. What are kind of early impressions, thoughts of? Obviously, we got some stadium information a little bit from Penner. George Payton made a couple announcements, and then Sean obviously talked for the longest today. Any big surprises or thoughts coming out of the first couple days here?
Nothing that I was too surprised with. I was a fan of the message that Sean talked about today when he talked about signing our guys first, looking in-house first, and it kind of gives that vote of confidence to those guys. Like, hey, you got us here once, let's put the work in and let's go do it again. With some minor tweaks here and there. I think for me, when you look at the ownership group, the Broncos are just we're lucky as fans that we've had the Pat Bolins and now the Penner ownership team. I mean, you can't ask for better owners, in my opinion. I mean, guys coming out, forget it. I'm not even talking about the stadium yet, because I'm sure that stadium is going to be top notch. It's gonna be the class of all stadiums when it gets built. But I live down near Dove Valley, and so I get to go to training camp pretty frequently every year. I try to make it a point to go out there a couple times. And in the couple of years, that they've been kind of rebuilding that whole area. I mean, I drove past it the other day, actually, funny enough, doing jury duty. But it was it was mind-blowing if I think back 5 years ago to what it looks like today. It looks like a full-blown stadium experience that they're building for essentially training camp and practices, which, and I know that kind of started with Pat Bolin and then rolled into this group. But I'm just a huge fan of that ownership team and what they continue to do. They put their money out. They spend the money, whether it's on the players, whether it's on the field at Invesco or Mile High or whatever we want to call it. I still call it Mile High, but I think they've really put their money where their mouth is, and they back it up. So to me, those are the things that I like to see as a fan. I love when I hear directly from the owner when he talks about things like the stadium. Obviously, as a taxpayer here, I don't want to pay more in taxes to build a new stadium for a couple billionaires. But when you hear that they're going to pay for it out of their pockets, essentially, I know there's probably tax stamps and seating arrangements that are going to go towards payment as well. But for the most part, that's being funded by them, and that's huge. And I think players around the league, they see that and they want to come and play. When you have everything else in line, we have a good coach, we have a good quarterback, we've got a good system, and then you talk about the ownership as well lining up. That makes a place for guys to want to come and play.
Absolutely. I'd hate to be a Kansas City Chiefs fan or a Bears fan right now with those rumors of going to Indiana or moving out of Missouri, even if they are in 30 minutes to an hour of driving distance. We keep the Denver Broncos in Denver.
It would have been weird to have the Lone Tree Broncos.
Yeah.
Not that we'd ever change, but it would have been funky. Like, there is something about the identity of any sports town having stadiums in a downtown business district. Like, we got a lot to look forward to. And I think the women's soccer team just announced they're going to be in Santa Fe Yards. So, like, we're going to have some really cool stadiums popping up over the next 5 years here. That Kroenke's going to be redeveloping everything around Ball Arena. So, yeah, props to the Penners. Obviously, they got the cash. I know they need to buy out a couple more businesses, which will be interesting. Fortunately, that's a chump change for them. But yeah, I'm going to be thrilled for that stadium when that comes out. 2031, 5 years away. It's going to fly by. Hopefully, a couple Super Bowls in between there.
Right. That's one thing I do have to say. Oh, good. I'm sorry, Brendan. Just real quick. I was going to say, the tough part is going to be for the traditionalists. It's looking at that stadium also and thinking about just the fact that, it's only going to move down, whatever it is, 10, 15 minutes down the road. But it's amazing to think about that parcel of land that the stadium currently sits on was actually 2 stadiums. You only moved that stadium just over the parking lot. And so now looking at it with the horizon and all the videos that we've seen, seeing downtown Denver right there, that perspective is going to change a little bit now. And I remember actually when I was there for the last game of Mile High Stadium, and the funny story with that was they were tearing up the seats of the south stands. And the announcer was telling them, put the seats back. We may need that for the playoffs next week. But there was opportunity to walk through the stadium on your way to Mile High Stadium to go in the game before the stadium was even completely finished. And now you're taking that away, and you're going to have this area of land that sat there, for a long time with a lot of football, and now you're going to be moving it completely down I-25. It's going to be, for the traditionalists, it's a little bittersweet for sure.
So Jim, I got a question for you, since I think you're the lone season ticket holder, or if not the lone season ticket holder on the pod, certainly the one with the longest tenure. What are your what takeaway? What's the big difference between? I got to see one game at the old Mile High, one game, and the thing that I'll never forget is how that stadium shook. It literally shook. I've been to plenty of games at the new stadium.
Well,
it doesn't have the same feel, but I guess what's your thoughts on? It's hard to believe that stadium's now the 3rd or 4th oldest stadium in the NFL now. It's crazy, but what's your, having been to sat through season after season at each stadium? What's your takeaway?
Sure. My takeaway, you're right. The Rocky Mountain Thunder, as we called it, it's kind of funny because that stadium, put it to you this way, were we in need of a stadium? Absolutely. To walk through there, you could literally, in some areas, you could walk on the floor to your seats and feel it kind of go underneath you, bouncing a little bit, which gave it the Rocky Mountain Thunder for sure. Um, the stadium, now that it's 25 going on 26 years old, starting to get there a little bit. It may be there by the time we get to the new stadium for sure. Um, the There's just something about, again, I think it's a great time to go into the Bo Nix era, and I hope we keep Bo for another 10, 12 years, or whatever the case may be. I think that Mile High Stadium had the Orange Crush, had that feel to it, gave us our first Super Bowl. I think Empower Field, through its many different names, gave us, Mile High gave us some Super Bowl wins. This one is a Super Bowl win, but it's been a long year. We've gone through some really lean years, and now I think we're getting ready to that. The one thing with new stadium you keep talking about, though, is a roof. And again, as a traditionalist, I am happy to sit in the snow. That's going to be a little bit tough, but I generally understand that for the Broncos to be able to have the draft, be able to potentially do a Super Bowl here, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. But yeah, Mile High is just the ghosts that sit there and talk to you every Sunday. It's going to be a little bit different. And so, but I've sat in other stadiums. There's nothing like Mile High Stadium. Nobody does it like we do, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, definitely with getting a few Super Bowls back into that stadium for in our last 5 or 6 years, or 4, no, 5 years, and just kind of having what the Bills thought they were gonna have this year with the move into a new stadium from Orchard Park, and just kind of having, it doesn't have to be the last year, but just kind of having that send off into this, I think that would be really special.
All right, so 5 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get on it.
Come on it.
Yeah. Well, it was with the old Mile High Stadium too. Although we had the 2000 year, it was kind of a mess of a year with Terrell Davis and things like that. It was something special to think about John Elway ending his career at the old Mile High Stadium. I don't know that it would have been just if he had done it at Empower Field, although they called it the house that, much like they did with Peyton, saying it was the house that Peyton built back in Indianapolis. That was kind of the same situation here. Is really Empower Field it truly was the field that Elway built. He just never had the chance to play in it, which was okay too. So
yeah,
interesting to watch him walk out of there with the AFC Championship that last.
Yeah, I just hope, and I think they'll probably take a page out of whatever the Bills are doing and that design firm, because they're really trying to make it as close to the field as possible, but primarily from like a noise perspective. Mile High is loud, and everyone says it, and like that is a unique advantage. Mix that in with the altitude, like that. I don't want to lose that piece. Yes, it's going to be very high tech. It's going to look very cool, but at the end of the day, like, I only care about what's on the field. I want grit. I want it to be loud. I want it to be intimidating for the other team coming in. I hope we can do something where we, direct sunlight and glare to their bench. Get into my Sean Payton mode right here. Anything to give the other team a disadvantage is hopefully some of the design cues that will go into the new stadium.
Take a page out of Miami's book.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't have it backfire like the Cowboys, where at the perfect sunsetting time, the light shines through, and if you have the ball going that way for that quarter, you might be cooked.
Yeah.
Can't see it all. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, we've got a couple more minutes. So we'll kind of give a preview of really what's happening for the rest of well, now we're at the end of March, going into April. Draft's 3.5 weeks away. We're all really, really excited about that. We are going to be breaking up each episode. So for the next three into different parts. So next week we'll be focused on past the draft, purely on the offense. What do the draft prospects look like? We'll do a little bit deeper kind of roster construction look. If any other news comes out, obviously that'll impact it. The 14th, we'll look at defense side of the ball. And we're all excited about that. That's the strength of the team. You can add a couple more pieces. 2 days before the draft, we will be doing final draft predictions, but we're going to do it our style, which will be a ton of fun. We'll each be rotating, so not steak style, but 1 through 5 on our side, going through each team's pick, which will be a ton of fun. And we're hoping to do a live draft on the show on the actual draft day. Obviously, the Broncos don't pick on the 23rd. As it currently stands, which is the first round. So maybe we'll do something on the 24th. We'll figure that out. And then obviously following the draft, we'll have a bunch of analysis. So our audience, please, add comments if you've got questions about players you want us to look into. We're happy to do that, but we'll each be giving some deeper dive perspectives and potential picks of who the Broncos should be looking at. So a lot of good content coming up, which we're excited about. We'll wrap up this episode with just predictions around the horn, and then something really cool coming around in the community. We'll talk about the end with the Night of Champions, honoring the 2015 Super Bowl winning Broncos. But Braden, kind of kick us off. Predictions for the next week ahead. Anything spicy going to happen?
Oh, I said it before. I think it's going to happen. I just don't know when. Cam Jordan and the Sean Payton reunion. You have Ellis moving to inside linebacker with Q Robinson kind of filling in that area. So filling in that position. So hopefully we get to see more of those players, but definitely I would love to have some more veteran presence in that DN defensive tackle position. That's just where I would like to go. That's just where I would like them to go,
Love it. Vince, what do you think? What's going to happen?
If I had to make a prediction, I'd predict that we would be having the same conversation next week with not much news having happened. But I hope Braden is right. I hope we get the Cam Jordan Sean Payton reunion, and we become the New Orleans Saints West even more.
Yeah.
Coach?
Zach, I would agree with you on the Cole Kmet trade. I think that would be nice. But in talking about reunions, I don't know why Alvin Kamara just keeps sneaking up on me, and I think that's his last piece to go ahead and put him and JK together as your 1-2 with RJ Harvey coming out of the backfield. I think if you turn around and put that, I think that puts all the other running backs on notice, and I think that just pushes JK a little bit harder, having a little bit of that competition. I think that would be the one that I'd be looking at. It's a possibility.
I like it. Eric?
So it's the owners meeting. So there's always something that comes out of the owners meeting that we don't expect, whether it's a rule change, the Cowboys fumbling something away. It typically happens in the, Jerry Jones gets in front of a microphone type of thing. But from the Broncos standpoint, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of noise over the next week or two. I think they're really kind of hunkering down, looking at what they can do as we get closer to the draft. I do think I don't know if it's going to be trading up into the first round, but I do think that they might look to move some of those later picks to maybe get another, into the second round, or maybe an earlier third round pick. But ultimately, I think those are the kinds of moves that we're talking about from the Broncos over the next week or so, week to 2 weeks, is just nothing earth shattering. Although, hey, I'm all in for Cam Jordan. I think that would be a home run. Add some of that leadership, and certainly a guy that's proven that he can do it over the years.
I love it. Yeah, I don't have any bold predictions. I think it's going to be pretty quiet in the next week. I think we'll start hearing more and more analysis around how do we start putting the puzzle pieces together around Waddle. I'm going to start reading those tea leaves and think about how does that eventually impact the tight end position. I'm gonna hold out hope for a tight end trade, but I think it's probably going to be a pickup, not on the tight end side. Cam Jordan, I think, would be good. Calais Campbell interests me a little bit. Older dude, 38. He can still strap it up. He's a big dude. Maybe a DJ Reader. Vaughn probably going to get onto his podcast or whatever he's doing and try to continue to clamor, which everyone would love. But we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen here. Cool. Braden's going to highlight the Night of Champions, which I think is really cool. Everyone should go check out. And then we'll wrap up here.
Well, as we all have seen on social media and YouTube and ads, Paramount is putting on an event in Denver with the Night of Champions, where all the 2015, 2016 Denver Broncos are coming to talk about the glory days. I went and looked at pricing. It seems like the cheapest tickets are around $80, $85. And the closer you get, obviously, the more expensive it gets. I think I saw a ticket for about $2,000. But I mean people love the Broncos. People are probably willing to pay that to get front row or second row tickets. And I don't blame them. So, I mean, that should be fun. Aqib Talib will, he's a great talker. He has his own podcast with Skip Bayless. So he's great to listen to. I would specifically love to hear Peyton Manning talk about his journey that last year, especially with the injury and seeing how the group rallied around. I wonder if Brock Osweiler will be back for that too.
Yeah, so. I love it. Well, everyone should definitely check that out. If we can get tickets, we're definitely going to try to go. But thank you, everybody, for joining. First inaugural episode done. Iowa Jets, A. Ramirez, thank you for commenting. We appreciate it. Hopefully we've reached a milestone of first episode we got comments. That's not too bad. But we'd love your feedback. If there's topics you want us to explore, we're happy to do that. And hey, we're all Broncos fans. This is our passion. We love it. So continue to comment, subscribe, follow us, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, all of the socials. You can find us under Bronco Zone, and you can also go Elevated Pulse Sports. There's other podcasts for the other Colorado teams, Rockies Now, Eyes on Avs. I forgot the name of the Nuggets one, so I apologize, but there's the Nuggets Hoops one as well. But sincerely appreciate everyone joining. Nothing but Nuggets?
Yes.
Love it. Nothing but Nuggets. So follow all the channels. It's sports fans like us talking about the teams we love. So thank you, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Can't wait.
Thanks all.
Have a good week, everybody.